Hello, team, and welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today. It's a 2v2 between Alpha Team and Bravo Team. On Alpha Team, M-Life in blue and Tomahawk in red. And on Bravo Team, Numpty in orange and Kartoffelman in teal. Looks like Alpha Team's going to be taking this side of the map. M-Life going on this southern little island. It is connected here, though, so it's not a total island. And Tomahawk in the north. Probably going to very naturally link up in this choke on the map. We'll see where Bravo Team decides to go relatively shortly. There's like a crisscross of trade routes in the center. There's also 3 trade routes on the right-hand side, so Alpha Team in a little bit of a better position to potentially take those. Numpty is here in the forest, and Kartoffelman, who's opened up with an airport, is a little bit to the north in this mountain range with 2 factories and a barracks behind it. So we see that Tomahawk's gone for 2 towns and 2 ports, which connects to this town and port that M-Life also goes with, the pre-construction money and a mining site for some more industry, 2 factories for blue and 1 factory for red. This is going to be a lot of eco for Alpha Team immediately to start this game. This second port just finishing up with that crane. And there's no real answer on the eco side for Bravo Team. 3 airports from Numpty and 2 barracks, so it's going to be a lot of units for Bravo Team. They're going to be better situated to get into this little choke first because Kartoffel spawns so close. Thomas gone for his second factory, and now a town for Teal. And this is Line War. And we build up. Subpen for M-Life. There's 3 energy wells here that blue can take. And until Bravo Team gets a dock on this side of the map, if that's what they decided to do, the subs are going to be able to cap all this water territory. It's SAMs and artillery for blue out of these 2 factories. We still don't see what Tomahawk's going for. But in gas, there's the potential that these could be tanks from red. Tanks would be relatively strong on this map, I think, just because of how there's a lot of open fields. Let the tanks maneuver. There's no mountain ranges that they can't pass. First refinery now for Orange, who's going for 3 bombers at a time potentially. When this 3rd airport's finished, I assume it will also go bombers. And helicopters for Teal, the first of which, pardon me, is completed. Kartoffel's capping to the north, which is pretty good. But as mentioned, once these transport ships, these merchant ships rather, start dropping off their cargo, Alpha Team's going to be making a lot of money. So we're about to have like first contact. Blue can now see Teal here, and vice versa. So both teams know, they probably knew before, just the way the picking phase went, that this was going to be a split map scenario. And 3rd factory for blue. It is a 3rd bomber out of this airport for Orange. There's 2 already completed, 2 more are nearly complete. 2 helicopters now for Teal. And Tomahawk's building an airport. It'll be interesting to see how this game goes just because of this huge eco lead that Alpha Team is going to have. And we'll see whether Bravo Team decides to push super hard through this gap or try to start ecoing themselves. There's really not much that Alpha Team, or Bravo Team, pardon me, can build. This town and port in the top, there's another town. These trade routes, maybe. But because they crisscross, having these 2 on the left-hand side won't do them any good, really, besides the town and the port income. And Tomahawk's already starting to build airplanes. This is an interceptor immediately, and it is tanks from red off this 1 refinery. So if we see Kartoffel's view, sees the digging. Teal's going to start digging in themselves. And more transport ships. Merchant ships. My bad. The submarine for blue is going to start capping this oil. And an airport for blue as well. And energy-wise, I think that Alpha Team is going to be fine. There are 2 refineries up here for Tomahawk. There's going to be 3 in the back for M-Life. Both teams shouldn't... Like, neither team should struggle on the energy. Just there's 4 refineries right here. Numpty's already got a refinery going with the depot. Kartoffel going for their first refinery, which can connect to the system. And Bravo Team will be able to share. It'll be a little bit more difficult for Alpha Team to share energy just because there would have to be a depot put down on land somewhere. And I suppose like somewhere here would make a lot of sense. We'll see if that becomes a thing. The bigger thing to note is that Tomahawk is building a launch pad for a rocket. So we'll probably see, my guess is like minute 20 is when this thing might be done. Three helicopters for Teal, 5 bombers for Orange. Definitely they have the Air Force advantage. There's only 1 interceptor for Blue for Red at this point. And Blue is going for helicopters behind these submarines. And we still haven't had a unit fight, which doesn't usually happen. 2nd refinery now for Tomahawk to keep these tanks going. If Red just keeps going for tanks and has the energy to sustain it, the second that this breaks, these tanks are going to be able to do so much damage because they can pretty much drive right to this refinery. Not to mention Teal's base. There's even a chance that if Red gets enough tanks, they could just bust through the side of this. And then it's a whole bunch of problems. There's 4 helicopters for Teal, so I suppose it wouldn't be too bad, but tanks are very strong when they're out in the open. And we still wait. Launchpad not quite done. Tomahawk's working on the first town in the north. And we'll see in the post-game graphs what this opener with 3 trade routes, or rather 2 trade routes but 3 towns and ports, does on the eco side of things. But I suspect it'll be pretty notable. Launchpad is now done. I went past Tomahawk. Tomahawk's gonna be able to have enough money pretty soon to build a rocket. It costs 500. Then a 2nd airport for Red, who's got 2 interceptors. The tanks might try to go forward. Great response from Kartoffel, pulling these infantry immediately to start body blocking. And so far, really good defense of the tanks. Pretty soon we probably expect these helicopters to come off this airport to defend, also because this airport's nearly full, so once this helicopter completes, no more planes would be able to be built since there's nowhere for them to go. And the tanks get through and here come the bombers. Numpty responds, has nearly a full depot worth of energy and a town in the bottom. Rocket is on the stand. It's 1/3 of the way done. And with this many bombers, we probably wouldn't expect the tanks to be able to destroy this town. Although tanks destroy buildings super, super quickly. And I have been proven wrong once again. So the tanks do take out that town. That's wild. Now they get cleaned up. Bombers go home. The defensive line for Blue has been dropped. And Teal looking like they want to start doing a little bit of a push here. There's not many land units for Orange. It's really just 1 factory that's building SAMs at the moment, one of which is done, and some barracks. But these bombers, the range of them certainly would go about here. So all of this army is in range. It's just 5 SAMs and whatever amount of interceptors. It's now 3 for Tomahawk that are going to be able to do all the anti-air. Here comes 5 helicopters for Teal, who continues to build more helicopters. And if we go top down, pretty much split at this point. Alpha Team's capped all their territory except for this little island on the right-hand side, which is not even really worth making a transport ship to go get. And Alpha Team, or Bravo Team's nearly finishing up their side on the left. The bombers for Numpty can't quite hit all this infrastructure for Blue. M-Life is going for a city here. Even more eco behind these trade routes. And a dock. But if there's an airstrip that's made for Orange anywhere close to the coast, then all of this becomes in range. There's no anti-air here for Alpha Team yet. SAMs start rushing up to the north, and here comes the interceptors for Red. And there's a big push from Teal in the north. The tanks are going to move forward to greet it. The interceptors are now on top of the bombers. And on the second round of the bombers, there might be some promise in this attack. There's enough SAMs here for Kartoffel that the interceptors will have a hard time, or that rather they can't stay around for long. This one somehow gets out. But Alpha Team might just have enough eco that even if they lose this fight, Tomahawk's certainly going to be able to have time to defend this, especially with the rocket on the way. M-Life probably the more exposed one. These missile boats are going to be huge to defend against the bombers. And the first dock now for Numpty, building a transport boat. And a follow-up factory and a second refinery. More eco in the top for Kartoffel, which I think is a great play for Bravo Team to keep up with the eco. Here comes the rocket. This is going to do a ton of damage. It might, super unlikely for Teal, hit all the helicopters as well. And it will. If it was just the army that was destroyed, it's still a relatively big deal, but especially with all those helicopters, that's very expensive. And at the moment was a little bit of an advantage that Bravo Team had, because using interceptors is difficult. There's no real amount of SAMs here besides these two. 2 factories now for M-Life to help push this back, or at least reinforce this position. Certainly for Alpha Team, the longer that this goes on in a deadlock, the better it is for them. With 2 trade routes and then a city already. Transport boat in the north for Tomahawk, probably going to start heading over to Bravo Team's side of the map pretty soon here. But a very decent number of bombers for Orange, which has now cleared this entire line pretty much of artillery. M-Life's going to start digging in this choke. The Orange artillery, or Orange infantry, pardon me, is already going to be on top of this, and probably will prevent these artillery pieces from getting situated. And still a decent amount of SAMs here for Bravo Team. The interceptors are going to have to go back at this point, otherwise they would fly into the SAMs. Good reaction time from Tomahawk to cancel that command. 4 towns in the north for Kartoffel. First missile boat is out. Wolf pack of subs will soon find this dock. Submarine pen now for Numpty. With all these bombers, if there's some interceptors mixed in, potentially they could spot these submarines. That many bombers could spot the submarines by themselves, but it's always just like a little easier if you have an interceptor with you. And second rocket for Tomahawk is nearly 2/3 of the way done. Nearly 2/3 of the way done. The most descriptive. Also known as like halfway done-ish, kind of, sorta. Super interesting right now because it depends where Bravo team wants to go. If they want to turn north to try to deal with Tomahawk, or if they want to focus exclusively on the south. Because we certainly know that the second rocket is going to hit some amount of units here in this choke. Orange has done a great job to keep most of the bombers alive. This forward airstrip now has 5. If we actually look at the view of Bravo team, it's clear where blue is, but it's not clear what exactly is going on and what the buildings are. And blue is a little bit out of energy. Probably going to have to put down another refinery relatively quick. And the 2 helicopters for Kartoffel picking a great line to avoid all the SAMs. They're going to get on top of the factories, but the red interceptors are going to be here really quick. And this is going to be 3 dead helicopters pretty quick here. 1 goes down, second one's destroyed as well. It's nearly 2 full airports of red interceptors. It was great defense. SAMs weren't able to quite be up forward to protect those helicopters. And 2 ports now for Kartoffel. There's still transport boats in the north, so this is going to be a pretty big landing at some point. There's also a full airport, pardon me, of helicopters for Tomahawk. And here comes another rocket. Probably going right here. Rocket comes into view. There's not really enough time to split these units for Bravo team. And at least 1 SAM stays alive, but that's... I mean, there's a second one that reinforces. I guess there's a third. So not the end of the world, but a little bit of a blow for the progress that Bravo team can make here. There is a cruiser now out for Numpty, which will help them, like, hugely against this blue navy that is eventually going to find these 2 naval structures for Orange. And here comes the landing attempt from Tomahawk in the north, and this could do a ton of damage because there's no helicopters at home to defend this. The bombers can't really reach this, and there's no production structures for Bravo team up here as well. And it's going to be 4 transport boats at a time. Rocket now for Kartoffel, which I believe might be able to reach this launch pad, or it's just slightly out of range. So if Tama can see this and reach this launch pad, then Red could just destroy this with the next rocket. And again, I go by Tomahawk. Yeah, so this hasn't been seen yet. As long as these tanks don't get too close, or rather enough army units for Alpha Team gets too close to this, this could catch Alpha Team off guard. The rocket's definitely in range of everything that Blue has. It's in range of all these factories in the back. And here comes the push out from Numpty with all the bombers, a cruiser, a missile ship, and 2 submarines. And second dock now in the south for Blue, which I actually is probably a good idea with this many bombers, because you can start getting a bunch of missile boats. When all the bombers show up to these 4 missile boats, if they all went at once, they probably would be able to destroy it. I guess there's a decent number of SAMs on land here. Red interceptors get some missiles off and then fly over some SAMs. Now they head home. Both players doing a pretty, like both sides rather, doing a pretty decent job of conserving the air units in this game. But this is a huge deal. At this rate, it's going to take forever to deal with this, because these units are going to get pretty dispersed pretty quick. There's a barracks now on the way for Kartoffel, but these are just attack lines to the north from Tomahawk, so they're not going to stop the cap. So M-Life's been sitting on some helicopters. They destroy the Orange Navy, which will probably tip Blue off that there is a dock down here somewhere. Tomahawk's rocket, third rocket, is 2/3 of the way done. Kartoffel's putting theirs on the stand right now. And I suppose these bombers, the range of the bombers is actually good enough to get all of this, except for these 2 commandos that went up to the north. 3 commandos. You can see the energy usage for bombers. It is like almost 4 airports worth. Now there's 2 more airstrips at the forward location, which is huge. But this is a very good number of tanks for Tomahawk, and there's not that much to defend these SAMs. The SAMs are very important to do with all these interceptors every time they go flying. 2 barracks now for Tomahawk on the left-hand side of the map. And the submarines for M-Life have now found these 2 buildings. Rather, they don't even see the subpen. It's crazy. Subpens, they have stealth properties for them. And I'm just always impressed with how stealth it is. I mean, these subs are hanging out right here. So remember, when you're looking for subpens, you gotta hug the coast a lot. It's also built in the mountains, so there is a stealth bonus because this subpen is built in the mountains, so it's kind of stacking in this case. Red's third rocket is done. This has officially turned into a extremely difficult position for Bravo team to get control back of this game, I think. Really, the 2 trade routes at the beginning, this early city as well. Not the only reasons this is going the way it is, but certainly was a lot of eco to get really early. These commandos are going to destroy all of this. Those 2 towns, and as a result, that port as well. The rocket is a little bit of a wild card. This could do a lot of damage. It still isn't detected by Alpha Team. And of course, it's still an enormous amount of bombers that Numpty has. Here comes a landing from Blue. There's not much of a standing land army for Orange. And these red commandos actually got all the way to the bottom. The ones that survived those bombers earlier. Bravo team is gonna push. Now is as good a time as ever, given what's going on with these red commandos. These 2 actually get one of the barracks, which is super unfortunate. If we actually look at Bravo team's view, like you can't even see the commandos. The bombers and the buildings and this helicopter don't actually give enough vision. So huge headache for Bravo team. Alpha team's out of gas, or I'd rather Tomahawk is struggling a little bit with the energy. And somehow Orange holds on to these 2 buildings. Cruisers and destroyers now for M-Life in the south. And Orange also dealing with a little bit with these energy issues. Commandos being super annoying, of course, sniping all the infrastructure. Let's see how far this rocket goes. It might just destroy the SAMs, which I think is a great call because it opens up the bombers. And so Blue will, besides these 5 factories, I mean, this was a lot of units that was being produced over here. But the rocket gets all of the producers. Red's still sitting on a rocket. And Alpha Team at this point can see this launch pad. So we'll find out very shortly if this red rocket is actually in range of this. There's some SAMs around it, so maybe Red wouldn't want to risk launching this thing and having it get shot down. And the commandos nearly get the airport. They still might be able to destroy it, which would be an enormous pickup. But we'll focus on the bombers instead. One of the interceptors is here, rather two of them. I was just thinking, can't wait for the tech where bombers have anti-air guns on them. Little turrets. But I don't know what that would solve, and I don't think about balance, because I'm not... I have no idea. The implications of little changes in the game. I think by this point, Alpha Team's just going to be able to pay for this win, so to speak, because Tomahawk's going to be able to put down a bunch of producers in the north. They're going to get all these trade routes. Certainly these top ones. But Bravo Team has dealt with these red commandos now, starting to slowly, sort of slightly push back up to the north. It's going to be very difficult to do. Because Tomahawk's already building infrastructure up here and still has these now 5 transport boats shipping in infantry. We'll see the reaction time of these red interceptors to get off of the airports. Because the bombers are here. There's really only 2 SAMs for blue. They're going to be destroyed super quickly. Or not. Okay, one goes down. Here come the interceptors. We'll see how long Numpty decides to stay with the bombers. And there's a real danger, as I feel like, the interceptor player, because your planes will just automatically follow these bombers a decent way home. And as a result, you know, if the SAMs just move forward, you can lose a lot of interceptors super quickly. Here comes the rocket, potentially directed at this town. And it's also going to be able to get all these SAMs again. Never mind. Gets 3 factories. And maybe Bravo Team can start pushing here. Never mind. But what wonderful play-by-play that you're getting out of this one. Because that rocket puts an end to that. M-Life is just rebuilding these factories, also going for a launch pad of their own. And top down, huge foothold for Alpha Team here. Tomahawk's cleared all the way to the north. And now can direct all these units to go back down south. These 3 missile boats are huge. The helicopters are a great call, I think, from Kartoffel. But just good play from Tomahawk to put 3 missile boats there. To handle those helicopters. This blue navy would be enough to overpower this, but 30 gazillion bombers are going to put an end to that. And Kartoffel can't afford another rocket, or is not deciding to build one. At the very least, Tomahawk has a whatever 5th rocket on the launch pad starting to build. And the interceptors are going somewhere. Bombers go home. And we can just see in the top right that M-Life making like a bunch of money, so is Tomahawk. And the situation's pretty dire for Bravo Team. This is, I think, a lot of eco to lose, and it's tough because it's probably not going to get resolved. All the units that go up to the north for Bravo Team can't be fighting in this choke. And when M-Life just rebuilds these factories, Alpha Team's going to have a lot that can push through this. In addition to another rocket from Tomahawk. These commandos are probably going to be able to get that refinery. Might even be able to destroy this one as well. Commandos are spotted because of all these buildings. And now 2 more factories in the north for Tomahawk. There's some artillery pieces up here for Teal. A decent amount of units to body block. Maybe if the helicopters stay away from the missile boats, Bravo team could win this fight, but I think there wouldn't really be enough to keep pushing these buildings. Tomahawk's building another airport, or rather an airport in the north. And rebuilding a sub-pen in the southern sea is orange. Can the commandos do it? Can the commandos do it, and can we catch it on the free cam? Yeah, this is the action shot right here. And it does. What a play. Bravo team is doing, like, I mean, it's a decent job to not lose on this front. But the damage hasn't been done. These production facilities for Red are going to come online. And presumably helicopters for Tomahawk here. M-Life's also got a rocket a third of the way done. And this is dropped in like a very good spot. These tanks can clean up the rest of these artillery pieces. And then if Tomahawk has enough gas, they can probably just drive by. The huge thing about commandos like this as well is, like, all the bombers kind of have to dispatch to deal with them. Unless you're doing the thing where you, like, put the command down and then unselect the bombers after a few of them go off the airport, but that takes, I don't know, in the heat of the moment, it's just easier to put down your command. And that'll be it. Alpha team will just push through this gap. Blue helicopters taking on bombers. How many bullets does it take to kill an airstrip? They might even get the second airstrip. And they do. 10 bombers. Or whatever this is, 6 helicopters or something. Kartoffel is out of here. So is Numpty. GG, well played to all. Let's see this ecograph. Because this might be huge. Yeah. I guess this is the trade routes at the beginning. Well played. Good game. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for the support on the channel and all the ways that you folks do it. If you want to check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/SodaQuackers, same as here on YouTube. Hope you have a wonderful night, day, evening, whatever it is. We'll see you around. Peace.